Hi, I'm Lorena, and I'm here to help you shift your state of being and recreate your reality. So, my channel is all about teaching you how to change your self concept, your perception of yourself, through a really holistic and emotionally integrated approach so you can sustainably manifest the reality that you desire, that you dream of. If that's something that you're interested in, please subscribe. Now let's get into today's topic, which is a bit of a different one, but I felt really called to speak about this because initially, I know lots of you have asked me to speak about the topic of a delayed manifestation, why that happens, and how to cope with that, and to go a bit more in detail around this. But over the course of the last week or two, I've just received so many messages from people who didn't know how to reconcile the duality of the world and the evil that's maybe going on in the world, the difficulties that are going on in the world on both an individual scale, but also on a global scale with manifestation, with the power that they have. And lots of people have messaged me with a heavy heart and said that they are really hurting and that they don't know how to deal with what's going on in the world and that they don't know how to help. And some of them have even felt a sense of responsibility. So I just wanted to talk a bit about this in the context of conscious manifestation, but also how we can deal with these issues going on in the world without completely losing hope and losing faith. So I think especially in the last couple of years, we've all experienced some difficulties, or if we haven't directly been impacted by difficulties, by things that are going on in the world, we've observed them in people around us or even on a global scale, even if it's far away from us. And that can be a lot to handle. That can be a lot that's coming up. And that can be a lot to process. And the first thing I want to say, if you're feeling like everything is a bit heavy and like things are a bit bleak, or like you don't know how to manage what's going on in the world, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. It's okay to be angry. And it's okay to be sad and to feel grief and to feel sympathy and empathy and compassion. That's a beautiful thing. In fact, it just shows how connected we all are and how much you care. It's a beautiful quality to have. It's a beautiful trait to have. And it's also okay to be fearful. All of these emotions are valid. So the first thing I want to say is make sure you express them. Make sure you don't push them down, but you actually allow yourself to be enraged, to be in fear, to be in whatever emotion you need to process so it can really move through you. And then the next thing I want to say is with regards to the sense of responsibility that some people are feeling. How can I help? But also in the context of manifestation, in the context of this world being a mirror of your subconscious. Why is this happening? And did I cause this? And did I create this? And did we manifest this? There's a couple of things here. Number one, you are not responsible for everything that happens in the world. This is so much more complex, and I personally also believe in a collective consciousness just as much as in an individual consciousness. So not everything that happens in the world is your fault. It's definitely not your fault. It's definitely not your responsibility to fix everything. And like I said previously, we do live in a world of duality, this physical reality. It is dense, it's heavy. It's not all light and love and rainbows and unicorns, and it shouldn't be, because we need this contrast and we need this polarity. And that doesn't mean that the bad things that are happening should definitely be there. I wish they weren't, and I'll get to how to actually deal with this and how to approach this for a vision of the future from the context of conscious manifestation a bit later on in this video. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge that you don't need to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, right? It's not all on you. And whilst your individual consciousness influences the world around you, because it's pushing it out, it's not your responsibility to fix everything. It's not your fault that certain things are happening. It's not a direct reflection of what's going on within you. But because there's both, in my perspective at least, an individual and a collective consciousness, this collective consciousness is not separate from you, which means that you do have power and you do play a role in this world. You are important in this world. You do cause a ripple effect in this world just by being you, just by shining your light. So it's important that you don't deny your importance. It can feel heavy to look at what's going on around you and to feel a bit powerless, but you're not powerless. We all have power and we all play a role and we can all do something with that. I also believe that we can all be the most of service if we are in our joy and in our pleasure, because the circumstances around us can weigh us down. What we're seeing on the other side of the world can weigh us down. It can make us feel powerless because we cannot directly impact what's going on. But you cannot serve, you cannot be an activist if you are not your best self. By this, I don't mean you're not allowed to feel negatively. By this, I mean allow yourself to be in your joy. Allow yourself to go for what you want and to live your desires, because you are showing others what's possible. And the more we can lift ourselves up, the more we can lift other people up. And that will reflect outward. And it might take time and it might not be a quick fix, and you might not have direct influence over everything what's going on in the world, but you're not powerless and you're not meaningless. There's also the question of taking action versus living in your imagination. And a past client of mine actually asked me something along those lines, where this person, and if you're watching this, hi, this person was struggling to really reconcile holding the vision for a bright future, for maybe a utopian future, where there's no systemic oppression, where there's no racism, where there's no injustices, and also taking action and acknowledging the pain that is going on. I believe that they both can coexist. First of all, reality is a big paradox. Multiple things that are seemingly in contradiction can coexist at the same time. And I think with scenarios like this, it's important that we acknowledge the pain that is going on around us, but it's also important that we allow ourselves to be in our joy and to hold the vision for a brighter future. Because if we don't create that peace within us, if we only look at what's going on and let these circumstances bring us down, this is everything I preach, and this is just the same thing on a collective scale. If you let your circumstances dictate how you feel, you can never change anything. So it's important that we're holding the vision for what's possible, because anything is possible, even if it doesn't look likely in the moment, whilst also acknowledging what's going on and maybe taking action to get further to the future that we desire, without manipulating, but just acting from an embodied place of, I know what is possible and I am showing up in this way. And when everything feels overwhelming and you don't know where to start, remember to come back to stillness. Remember to come back to a place of inner peace, inner love. That's where it's created first. And you have that access in each moment through something as simple as your breath. Being present, just being here now, closing your eyes and being here now. I just want to give a bit of a kind of personal but also collective example of holding the vision whilst being an activist and actually taking action in the physical, which is an issue that I care very much about, and that's animal welfare. I went vegan about 6 years ago, 7 years, 6.5 years ago. When I first went vegan, I was just devastated by the injustices that were going on, in my personal opinion, and you can feel triggered by this. It's fine. I would love it if we could live in a vegan world. That's a utopia for me, but it's a vision I hold. And it's a vision, although it seems far away now, that I deem as possible. And that's the place I am acting from. That's the place I am showing up from. I am still spreading a message of what needs to improve. I am still sharing. I am still speaking to people, but I am doing so from holding the vision of what I believe is possible. And in this example, you can actually see the change. And it's obviously not just me who's changing things, but our individual roles are important. So the reason I'm saying it's already changing is because when I initially went vegan 6.5, 7 years ago, I did not see many products advertised or in shops. Veganism wasn't even a topic of conversation much at the time. There weren't a lot of people who were vegan. There weren't a lot of people who knew what it meant. And now there's more and more coming in the world. So whilst we're not living in a vegan world yet, change is happening. And I don't think that would be the case if I and other people were just sitting at home being depressed about what's happening. Doesn't mean you're not processing your emotions, doesn't mean you're not showing up for, in this case, animals, but it does mean you're also holding the vision of what's possible. And you can see this in all the visionaries that have ever existed, that all of them, everyone who was working for peace, who was wanting a brighter future, believed in the possibility of it, even if at the time it seemed very, very far away. Usually, on the days I create content, I don't consume any content because I like to keep my channel clear so I can create from the purity of my heart and not be influenced by anything or anyone else. But this morning, I kind of felt called to watch an Instagram live, a past Instagram live by Aaron Rose. I love his work, and on this specific topic of your role in the world and injustices in the world and how to show up from a place of love and make change from a place of love, I really recommend his content, so go check him out. But in this Instagram live, he said something that really landed with me, where he said that if you are able to feel pain, then there is also love and joy somewhere there. Because if you are able to currently in this moment feel pain, then there's a part of you that feels the opposite, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to experience that contrast. Pain only exists in contrast. Otherwise it's completely neutral. So I really love this perception, and this is what I want to give to you as a reminder as well. If your heart feels heavy, if you feel hopeless or powerless or in pain, or you have such deep sympathy for people who are affected by horrible things that you feel it within yourself, then there's also the opposite within you. If you see injustices in the world, then there's also the potential for the complete opposite, for unity, for love, for peace. So acknowledge what's going on, acknowledge your emotions, acknowledge what's going on in the world, but keep holding the vision, keep believing, keep showing up from a place of what is possible, because I choose to believe, and I hope we can all do that. I know this was a bit of a different topic, but I hope this helped some of you. Next time, I'm definitely going to talk about the topic of why your manifestation is delayed and how to deal with that and all of these things. So next time we'll get back to regular content that's more about your individual processes, but we're all connected, and it's important to talk about both the individual and the collective things. And at the end of the day, it's all about the same theme of choosing your state from within and taking action from that and changing the world and your reality from that, instead of letting circumstances or other people dictate how you should feel or how you should show up. Keep spreading your joy, keep tending to your heart, and let's keep believing in a peaceful, loving world.